gonna start recording this.
Okay.
So
Is Gary going to join us? Do you know?
he sent us an email about an hour ago, I think, saying he was going to listen in,
I'm going to get my coffee.
but not necessarily join. Actually, he may join at some point or something like that.
Oh,
That's what I picked up from his email,
Mhm.
that if he joins us, it would be in part.
Yeah. And he seemed to, he's not too sure that he's ready for our degree of intellectual
I was
stimulation.
surprised at that remark.
you what, John?
I was surprised at that remark.
Yeah,
Might it have been sarcastic?
no, I don't think so,
I don't think so.
because he's not with us video, and he should not even consider that, but I guess he's.
This is
I'm
Gary
going to jump
Lombardi.
in with something here. Bernie Brakel was ill yesterday. His wife and daughter attended that little gathering at the train station, but it was very small, just 7 or 8 people total. Jerry O'Donnell and Mike Hawkins were the prime movers, and they were fun.
Mhm.
Was Don Brune there?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry. He's a really good guy. I like him.
Who else was there, John?
Dick Welsh
Yeah.
and I may be blanking on one other or 2 others, but it was like 7 or 8 is all.
Mhm.
Very small.
We're up to 3.
What's that?
We're up to 3 on our way to 7 or 8. O'Donnell,
O'Donnell and his wife, Mike Hawkins, Dick Welch,
Yourself.
Bernie's wife and daughter, myself,
Cottons.
nope,
Oh, really?
That's 4, right?
Well, counting the, you're counting the total population, including
that's right, that's
the
right.
wives and daughters.
Yeah, so
So-
that's
Okay.
even more than 8.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's really small. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
How that place sounds interesting. But-
Patty's Station,
Yeah,
yeah,
down in San Clemente or something like that.
yeah.
San Clemente or Oceanside?
What was that?
Was it San Clemente or Oceanside?
San Clemente.
San Clemente, okay.
And part of the discussion was, we'll probably not schedule down there again, just because it's a distance, and maybe we'll go, in LA, Orange County,
Mhm,
to accommodate more.
mhm.
And North Orange County sounds like kind of a central location, doesn't it? Or
Oh.
huh?
No.
How about Union Station?
Downtown
Actually, I
LA.
think that's a good possibility because you've got the
Yeah,
hub of LA public transportation as well as the hub of Metrolink and
The light rail.
right, light
in there.
rail, buses, Metrolink and
There's
Amtrak.
restaurants. Yeah.
we could go to Olvera Street.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go across the
Union,
street to Olvera Street. Mhm.
Union Station has at least one good restaurant, but that's not the point of the gathering, of course.
Yeah.
It's not like, let's really have a cool meal.
Yeah. exactly.
Anyway, we were going to pray, and George Ferrick had a suggestion for prayer.
Yeah, I had an idea.
Wonderful.
Let me pull it up here. I thought that we could just go around and I have it right here. Yeah, we could each say a line and just keep going. I could kick it off and we could just go in order. How's that?
That sounds great.
Well,
Okay.
I need to pull it up.
Yeah, so I have it in front of me here. I
Um,
wonder how I can do a split screen. I guess, I don't know.
Let me see if I can,
Pull it up.
I think I can enable you to share the screen.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I have it on my screen here.
Oh, one participant can share at a time. So there should be a little green button down there that says share screen.
Okay, let me see here. Share screen. The heck?
And then you'll get a mosaic of all the open windows or screens. And then you have to select which window to share.
You could do it, George. You could do
I
it.
can't.
You can do it.
I'm not even part of the group now, right?
No,
I'm
you
not-
are.
Oh, yeah, I
Oh,
see, I
you're
see
here.
something. What's that?
We can see you.
Okay, I pushed, here's a share
Right.
screen thing, okay. Share screen.
You're the only one that can share screen.
Okay, well, the screen is you guys. How do I
Mine
get the,
says, well, is there another tile there or image?
it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
That's what I
Well,
got.
that's bullshit.
Yeah,
Take
but
a
that's what-
stand. Tom.
Okay, let me try it again. I put something else down.
Okay, I'll try it again. But when I go to
Oh.
my screen, oops,
Join a live Zoom demo, my screen says.
Yeah,
same.
unfortunately,
We'll get out of this.
I am now viewing Ned Chavira's screen. What? Um,
yeah, if you could view mine, it'd be great, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I get out of this? Tom?
let me
Let's
see. I'm not sure.
You are
um,
sharing, screen sharing. Stop share. Here we go. There we go.
Okay. Now,
This better be a damn good prayer.
it is. This whole process kind of fits in with the theme of it. It says, I have no idea where I'm going.
yeah,
That's the first line of it.
okay, you should be able to now, I think. So share the screen.
Well, how do I do that? If I go back to the,
Just like you tried to do when it said host has disabled it. I have enabled it.
okay. Share screen. Okay, yeah, here it is. Cool. Okey doke.
Should we
Okay,
be on
how's that?
speaker? Oh,
There
there
we
we go.
go.
Wow,
Okay.
good.
Okay. So why don't we just go down in order? How's that? I'll start and then Tom and John and Ed, George.
Okay,
So
I'm
have you-
Okay,
Okay, so I'll start with the first one.
I'm after John. Okay.
Okay. My Lord God, I have no idea where I am going.
I do not see the road ahead of me.
I cannot know for certain where it will end.
Nor do I really know myself. And the fact that I think I am following your will does not mean that I am actually doing so.
But I believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you.
And I hope that I have that desire in all that I am doing.
I hope that I will never do anything apart from that desire.
And I know that if I do this, you will lead me by the right road, though I may know nothing about it.
And so, or therefore, I will trust you always, though I may seem to be lost and in the shadow of death.
I will not fear, for you are ever near me, and you will never leave me to face my perils alone. Amen.
God
Amen.
rest Thomas Merton.
That's a
Oh.
great prayer. George,
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome. Now I can unshare my,
Right?
Could you email that to me, George?
sure, I'll be glad to. Yeah,
I'd love to have that.
yeah. I did send it in a email, but
Oh,
I'll send it again, no problem. Yeah,
Okay.
very easy. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now I'm kind of stuck here. Okay.
Yeah, and I can't
Okay.
unstuck you.
Yeah, it says you are screen sharing. Let me see, maybe I'll,
Up where it
Unclick
says
it.
your screen sharing, yeah, click that. Click up at the top there.
yeah, I'll click it. It says stop share. Okay, got it. Okay, there we go. Okay,
There we go.
okay.
Can you reach it? The one before?
You could, I think I'll probably write down on the couch, but could you give me a couple pillows?
Well, you're gonna drink this first.
Yes.
hi.
Okay.
So do we want to go back and do that thing that we did last time of people sharing, giving a thumbnail report?
Yes, I think so.
What are we up to, et cetera,
Sounds
et
good to
cetera?
me.
Yeah,
Sounds good to me.
But wait, Ned's distracted here.
it's kind of like Thomas Merton has appeared to him.
Did you have a vision of Thomas Merton, Chavira?
Ned, you gotta unmute yourself.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay,
We had this feeling that you were having a vision of Thomas Merton.
No, I was having a vision of my wife. She was right there. And I was,
maybe she
awe.
was channeling Thomas.
Yeah, I need to get up and close the door.
Okay,
Do you find that you walk on sort of a stoop now? Hello?
Speaking
you-
to,
who are you
I'm
talking
sorry?
to?
Oh,
And-
just everybody.
oh, in general,
Yeah,
yeah, I
I do
have-
notice.
I have to work at straightening up.
I just
and-
noticed Tom as he got up, it was sort of a.
Yeah, I have to work at that too.
Okay.
What I need to do is some back exercises because
Yeah.
I have all these scans that I've been doing lately, they've picked up, I guess, a considerable amount of arthritis in my lower back. It's not painful. And I think that's the problem. Not being painful, I'm basically not doing anything about it. But if I were exercising better, I think I would walk better. But yeah, I have noticed, and some people have noticed too, stand up straight.
Yeah,
You
Oh,
don't
do you
go to
know my
physical
wife?
Therapy, Tom, huh?
Pardon me?
You're not going to physical therapy of any kind?
No.
Have you been
uh,
hanging around with my wife?
I don't think so.
Uh-oh.
She's a great stand-up straight person.
is she? Oh, well, that's,
Okay, no, she's not the only one. In fact, the real stand-up straight person back when I was at Nazareth House was Sister Jean Marie. Sister Jean Marie is one of the three last more or less living members of the traditional branch of the IHMs after they split.
Yeah.
Oh, really? The traditional branch?
They're the ones that taught at Good
Immaculate
Shepherd.
Heart College. No?
Immaculate Heart College.
Yeah.
Well, but after they split, did these nuns teach at Good Shepherd?
No, the ones
Ah.
at Good Shepherd were an even more conservative split based on the personality of Sister Leonella. And they were, I think they called themselves the Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Church.
Hmm.
They even changed their names, huh?
I think, yeah,
But they were originally part of the IHMs.
right.
And dressed the way the IHMs did
With
before
the
the split.
exception of having a little tab Roman appearing collar at their throats.
Oh,
Hmm.
so they were wannabe priests.
I think, I don't think any of them would ever admit it because I think they were more wannabe bishops. And not to go through the priest bit.
Why stop there?
That was very good, Tom.
So they were a microcosm of the church, sounds like, the IHMs.
Microcosm
Arlene and I
of,
were
of
very-
their, of their view of the church.
And
Yeah,
how they scattered.
yeah.
Yeah, no, they haven't scattered. They died.
Oh,
I think all of the members, they never got any more.
Yeah.
And I think they've all died.
They went through a morphing. Darlene and I were very close to 4 or 5 of them, and kept up with them pretty well. They got a very large, not very large, I don't know, 12-story apartment building just west of Central City, Los Angeles. Lived there for a long, long time. And then they began to accept lay people, families. And then they began to get infiltrated, so to speak, by non-Catholics. And they said, well, that's okay, Christians. And then they
Well,
began
that's the Immaculate Heart community, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And
That's where Socorro was dead, right?
pardon me?
That's where Socorro was.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and her sister, who taught me in the first grade.
really? Wow.
Yeah, I have long relationship with the IHMs, and
And we also, go ahead.
and then they started accepting non-Christians, and then there began factions to split them, and it was very, very difficult. The more traditional ones that stayed with those who left or who were put out were always fearful that they would get into really different non-Christian, control. And now they've moved out of that building because it got quite dangerous. That neighborhood, a whole bunch of Mexicans showed up and moved in.
Oh my God.
And no, it really got to be little, Central America, South America. But now they're in a different place. I can't remember where, but they still have, at least the ones that most of the ones that we were close to are dead. There's only one left, actually. Sister Catherine Smith is her name.
Mhm.
And they still have a prayer meeting that has lasted plus more than 50 years. It's really something.
Mhm. Well, a large number of the, shall we say, the other side of that split lived out in Claremont area.
Hmm.
And one of the things that's not well known is that the prior, in 1968, prior to 1968, they were planning to either move the Immaculate Heart College campus out to Claremont or build an additional campus out there.
Yeah.
And that property that they were going to be part of the Claremont colleges.
Oh,
That property still exists as a Barnard Field Station there on Foothill Boulevard. It's sort of just an open lot that now I think the colleges, I don't know exactly, I think the Claremont colleges own it, but it's part of a restoration effort to restoring to native habitat.
And
yeah.
Immaculate Heart College no longer exists. Am I right?
Right.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be gone. Yeah.
And do the other group of nuns, do they still have the Casa de Maria retreat house in Santa Barbara or Montecito? Do you know?
I don't think they do anymore, but
No, these nuns do. I mean, the bunch we've been talking about.
The community.
what was
Yeah,
that, George?
the ones that
Yeah, the progressive ones.
Sister Smith, that bunch. The ones that lived on by in sort of downtownish that you were talking.
Kenmore Street. Kenmore.
Yeah. Okay. They still own,
I'm sorry?
still own that property.
I don't know if they own it. They moved out. That was the becoming very dangerous place.
No. That property being the place up in Santa Barbara, Montecito.
Oh. They purchased, maybe this is a bit of a tangent. They purchased some of the Jesuits property that was sold many years ago. Herb was very upset. He called me and asked me to help them value it and talk reason into them and not sell it for nothing. And they did wind up selling it for very, very, very little. And the IHMs took a piece of it and split that and sold the half that they sold for 4 or 5 times what they bought the whole thing for, their piece of it.
Mhm.
And that allowed them to keep the retreat house going for some time, but I think it's gone now.
Oh, well, could be. They did own it. I remember one of the families with whom we owned that condo in Maui had a daughter who was recruited to the group, the progressive group, after all this went down, far long after McIntyre, et cetera, et cetera. And I was talking to her once, and they weren't doing well. All the Protestants that were going to flock to them had not. Their, for want of a better term, their vocation rate was abysmal.
Mm-hmm.
And it just wasn't happening, and we talked about how when they split back in the McIntyre days, or maybe they were Manning days when they finally did it, I don't know, but they thought that they were the wave of the future for the church and for the religious life. They really did. And anything but, as it turned out, their numbers started plummeting. And meanwhile, these hyper traditional nuns vocation rates are skyrocketing.
Yeah.
I remember talking to her, I said, yeah, I just don't understand it. We're right, they're wrong. Why are they flourishing and why are we languishing, you know?
The
And
beginning of
so-
the splits of the arguments about you're right and I'm wrong.
oh no, those arguments had begun well before,
Yeah.
but you know, there's a mystery.
Great mystery.
How is this happening?
If you do a Google search for Casa de Maria Montecito, there is an article in the local newspaper from June 26th that they are beginning to revive. You know, they were flooded with that Thomas fire, the debris following, you know, the debris
yeah.
flow. And so, but apparently the community, according to that article, the community still owns it. The Immaculate Heart community.
Yeah, there's even a great picture of it.
Mhm.
San
And they're-
Ysidro Ranch.
And they're getting it ready to function again as a retreat center.
I guess so, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But there's this peculiar phenomenon in the American church right now that dying congregations, you know, 10 nuns control, you know, $86 trillion worth of endowments or properties or etc. Time and time again.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, like Casa de Maria. Okay, we've been there, Ned, with the Justice of Peace Commission.
Yeah.
It's a pretty fancy place and a pretty fancy neighborhood, and yet of these nuns, or what would we call them, progressive ladies or something. You know, how many are left? 150?
Oh, way less than 50, way less than 25, I think.
Okay.
Of the progressives, the traditional, as Tom says, I think there's about at least two groups of traditional.
Well, you know, one of my questions is, you know, how exactly are they incorporated as property owners? You know, what sort of continuity would there be in their nonprofit status
After they're all dead.
after all dead?
Maybe big corporations took over it. I'm on their website here and it says, welcome to La Casa de Maria re-envisioned. We've been tirelessly working to recreate La Casa and are pleased to share our first illustrative renderings as we begin rebuilding the future.
Huh.
They've got what looks like an actual picture. It says pure splendor, breathtaking views. Wow.
I wonder if the chapel survived. You know, they had a beautiful view, you know, the window
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Big window in the
Yeah.
Ed,
Beautiful.
can you ascertain from what you're reading who we are? Who's the antecedent of we? We're doing this, we're doing that. Well, who are?
some it says IHC
Immaculate Heart
Immaculate Heart
community.
Community.
is committed to build relations in society which foster access of all persons to truth, dignity, and full human development. And this is it, 800 East El Bosque Road. Cindy Faith Swain, director.
Huh.
Who knows?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. There must be some maybe wealthy donors or whatever behind it.
Yeah.
Well, we had an illustration of this with there was a George, you won't know about this because it was local news, but the Waverly Bunch, Tom, which ones are they?
Yeah, well, they were the ones that remained as a canonical order.
Are they the ones that were teaching at Good Shepherd?
No, they had
Okay.
split from that. I'm not sure what their canonical status was. I think they were recognized, but probably recognized by Manning. But like I say, they were also teaching up at Palos Verdes. They had those two places. And
Okay.
Sister Leonella Lynch and her sister Virginia Lynch, they were the kind of the gurus of it, of that move. But like I say, they have completely died out, but they were very, very authoritarian structured around Leonella.
Well, in any case, the so-called Waverly nuns owned a fancy piece of real estate in LA. I don't know where it was exactly. I have the impression of Los Feliz area, and they famously sold it to some celebrity. I don't know who she was. I don't remember. And then changed their mind, and there was litigation about the property with the nuns, all three of them that were left.
No, there were 5 at that time.
Okay. Well,
And
okay.
the two of them, the one kind of, I don't know, held the financial stuff, but the big dispute was whether it was the archdiocese that had made an agreement
That's right.
to take care of the nuns, but legally had title to the property. And the nuns themselves, the two, in the name of all 5, disputed that. And where the dispute came up was the archdiocese sold the property to oh no, what's her name? Very famous popular pop singer. It'll
Britney Spears, that's.
it'll no,
there it
not
is.
not
More like Barbara Streisand, huh?
no, more like Britney, but
Oh,
wasn't Britney.
Madonna.
More like Madonna, but not Madonna. Anyway, the nuns, the two of them, sister, well, the two of them basically sold it to a developer who wanted to open a boutique restaurant and boutique hotel there. And of course, the diocese contested that, and that went into litigation. The famous incident was that in court, one of the protagonist nuns, who won the kind of the ringleader of that group of 2, dropped dead
In court?
in court. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a dramatic.
And that made that made all the papers and all of that.
Absolutely.
bye.
But anyway, the other one, Sister Rita, who is still alive, barely, kept fighting on. The 2 now who are of the other side, who favored the archdiocese move, were Sister Jean Marie up at Nazareth House. There was another one up at Nazareth House whose name I forget. And then there's a third one who I think is at St. John of God. So everybody is content now.
Yeah.
Well, the diocese won the case.
Pardon me?
Who won the case?
The archdiocese.
So they sold the property.
No, they didn't, because there were certain conditions to the archdiocese selling it. Oh my goodness, what is her? her name. I'll get it up in a minute. She's Katy Perry. Katy Perry.
Was the.
Oh, yeah,
flip-
she's a singer. She's
Yeah,
a
she
singer.
was the
yeah.
purchaser.
She
I've heard
was
of
she
her.
was the purchaser, but the condition was that, I mean, she really wanted it. The condition was not only would she pay the asking price, but she would find a new location and pay for the moving and rebuilding of the priest's house of prayer. Now, I used to go up there regularly for spiritual direction and retreats. So I'm very, very familiar with that property.
Hmm.
So the idea was she could have it on the condition that they were able to find a new suitable location for the priest's house of prayer.
I think Norm Supanchek went there often, did he
He
not?
did also, yeah.
Yeah.
And does that exist? Is there a new location for that?
No, there's no new location. There was one location that was looked at and was being seriously considered, which probably would not have been too good anyway. It was up in Eagle Rock, and it was the old mansion of the Beacons family, the Beacons Van and Storage.
Hmm, yeah.
And they were scouting it out and looking for it and all, but the neighbors did not want it, because to have a gathering place for Catholic priests meant that they were inviting all these pedophiles into the neighborhood.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
Geez.
Now the archdiocese is kind of saddled with the place. I talk regularly with my spiritual director, who is Jack Steger, Father Jack Steger, who is the director of the place. They have converted part of the nuns' quarters, what they called the villa, into an auxiliary part of the house of prayer. So they have more than doubled, no, I think not more, just about doubled their capacity for retreats there. But the old house, which was built by, anybody remember the name Earl C. Anthony?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Built by him. He was the big Buick dealer and pioneer radio broadcaster in LA. That was built by him. And then it was purchased by Donahue, Count, what was his first name? Sir Daniel Donahue.
Yeah.
And then he gave it to the Immaculate Heart Sisters, or gave it to the Archdiocese for the Immaculate Heart Sisters. And since under Hawks and that crowd, in that regime, and I think the transfer was made after the split. But you know, Hawks didn't document a lot of things. There were so many things that were just a handshake and a wink. And apparently that was one of them. So as I understand it, the title was never as clear as one would hope, which of course was a great boon for a variety of lawyers.
I'll bet. Well, Robert De Niro would
So-
never have done that.
So here's something,
I got it.
you know, I'm thinking of Tim and Gary and Fred. Tom, I think there should be a little notation when you send the video out that if they're not interested in the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart, they should go to 10 minutes, no, 10 hours and 50 minutes and skip the first 50 minutes of the tape. Otherwise, we'll lose them forever.
You know, I thought of that last week because so much of our session, you know, chisme and nothing important stuff. And maybe there should be a caveat. Okay, guys, the first X minutes of the tape are, you know, gossip and
Trivia.
fooling around and
Right.
other frivolity.
Yeah. So I
Well,
think, yeah. What do you think of that, Tom?
I think, and I'd like the rest of you to weigh in on this too, especially, but it seems to me that we started simply as an informal gathering that we would, during the COVID lockdown, this was sort of a survival tactic, I think, for all of us at that point, a year ago. Can you believe it's been just about a year, almost a year?
Awesome. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, 10 months anyway. But, that would just be an informal chit chat. And, then we began to sort of get some themes to kind of talk about, and that was okay. But, it did develop into what I think is sort of concerning Gary Lombardi about, we're having some sort of significant intellectual discussion on some topics and doing our homework or sort of expecting each other to do homework or whatever. And I don't know if that's really fully sustainable. That's
Well,
I think that's a really good comment, Tom.
they're just, we've sort of rediscovered each other and are enjoying sharing what's been going on, which was what George suggested a few weeks ago, that we start out sharing what's going on. And that got launched into the Immaculate Heart stuff. And why not? That's kind of my feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
sometimes it's not lofty Lonergan stuff. Although the lofty Lonergan stuff and the I think is wonderful. I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
Well, I've never been able to understand the word.
The what, George?
I've never been able to understand the thing I've read by the guy, ever. I mean, through my lifetime, every now and then something by Lonergan will come to my attention, and I read it, and I say, "Huh," and then life goes on. But that said, here we have Fred Lawrence as to teach us Lonergan, and I struggle with it. I've only read the first chapter of that book, Tom, but I keep meaning to get back to it, and I just realized there's a hiatus while Fred's off, teaching real students instead of dilettantes, such as
Elderly dilettantes, no less.
Soon to drop dead.
To say aging dilettantes would be overly optimistic.
Yeah.
I think.
Our brains are already tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I bought a
Would
Mini
you,
Cooper a few years ago, my daughter said, people are gonna think this is your midlife crisis car.
Can't hear you, George.
we're losing the sound, George.
And
Now
what
you're-
we do have is kind of distorted.
But now you're back.
Okay. Well, I bought a Mini Cooper. My daughter said, "You're going to look like you're having a midlife crisis." And I said, "It's way too late for that, Susan."
It's more of a near-death experience.
Yeah.
Near-death.
Thank you, George Ferrick.
And then he got
you devil,
a
you.
sporty Audi.
Oh, that's the best car I've ever had. It's talk about Jesuit spiritual direction.
Something's wrong with your sound, Crook.
Yeah, too much distortion, George.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing.
And the volume.
Got a
is
volume control, George?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It goes.
Yeah.
We can tell the guys to skip this part too.
No. My suggestion is that they go through it at double speed and then, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, but I think you should at least put down like minutes from the beginning to
No,
11 o'clock is,
I'm not,
and
I'm,
they
you
can,
know, to be really honest, I'm not gonna bother doing that.
okay.
Um,
And,
uh,
and
I
I'm
think it- I
willing,
think it's,
seriously, I'm willing to let them make their own judgment. I'm with you, Tom Welbers. It is what it is. And, you know, we'll get feedback. They'll,
yeah. And, you know, Fred is going to listen to us and will comment, and we, at least I speak for myself, we love his comments.
yes,
Thank you,
Yeah.
Fred, and keep them coming.
Yeah, yeah.
And we look forward to getting you back with us, Fred, and to get beyond the third waypoint in the quest of God of a good life.
That's not even Lonergan. That's a translation.
Yeah, you know, what we got through pretty well, I think, and I kind of understood more or less, was, you know, part one, progress, nature as good.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm kind of getting interested in, okay, well, decline. How does Lonergan see decline and redemption and nature raised into supernature? And then we have the looming prospect, John Gremer, of Dante,
yes,
who basically dealt with the same triad of nature, decline, and redemption in the Divine Comedy. And I think that's kind of an interesting sort of thing. I'll be honest, I'm not myself over sure that I want to get deeply back into Dante, having spent about a year sort of as a dilettante off and on reading.
well, and if I may, I'd like to pass the baton to George Ferrick for a minute on two things. This is my curiosity. One, you're going through Peterson, Pinker, and Haidt.
I am.
Tom is, okay.
I am.
I just started and I'm fascinated by the dynamics there. So are you and I, Tom Welbers, are you and I the only two who are into that? Peterson, Pinker, and Haidt?
I'd like to get into it. I was very much into height and I forgot most of it. So I want to get back to it.
Yeah.
And Peterson is going through some kind of metamorphosis, isn't he? I mean, I saw him on YouTube crying about religion and Christ. Is that something you guys have
Haven't
noticed?
seen it, don't know.
Well, he's Barron seems to admire him a great deal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Honest thinker and honest searcher. So, but what was, you know, one of the things that I got in listening to it, and I'm only about halfway through,
A
is,
couple hours, right?
yeah, I'm playing it at 1.5 speed. So, so ideas pop out without necessarily being connected. But that's what happens, isn't it? When you got a group of people for a conversation, ideas pop out and without being
Yeah.
connected. We're
Right.
doing that all the time. But, you know, I was thinking, I would love to hear somebody deal with the Pinker seems to be extremely focused on the mechanism of thought and consciousness and reason from a totally atheistic point of view. And I was just thinking, you know, it'd be awfully interesting to hear a dialogue between Pinker and Lonergan.
Oh, my goodness.
So I Googled the two names together, and a couple of interesting things came up. One was a review of one of Pinker's books, I think it was maybe it was a review of Barron in the NCR by Michael Sean Winters.
Mhm.
And he was a little bit, he was agreeing with Barron, but kind of scathing about him. But he mentioned both Pinker and Lonergan sort of in the same breath as being polar opposites. And then there was another lengthy review, rambling review of one of Pinker's books on Amazon. Lengthy by somebody who just rambled on and connected in some way. Pinker needs to read Lonergan. He needs to read what's that other guy's name? The Medium is the Message.
Oh, McLuhan.
McLuhan.
Marshall
McLuhan, yeah, and and Walter Ong and
Pinker.
that sort of thing. And I didn't quite make head or tails out of that thing either. So I just went rambling on.
Okay, wait a
Sorry
second.
about
I don't know the frame of reference here. I guess I've missed something. I've had a bad week. I mean, my back has been out of sync and worse than it ever has. And so it just takes time and energy, you know. I mean, I'll come out the other end of the tunnel tomorrow or something, but so I've been distracted. But Pinker, is that the guy that contends that things are getting better? Fewer people are starving, fewer people die by violence, etc.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got his book and I intend to read it. That's a novel thought. Things are getting better, you know?
Yeah. And
it has to do with measurable things, isn't
Right.
it,
Yeah.
Tom?
right, that seems to be his point. And my point on all of that is, well, a lot depends on which things you're measuring.
Yeah.
Well, it's measuring is, I guess John said, quantifiable things.
Yeah.
For what,
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw him recently by Hero. I'm not even going to say that kiddingly. I saw him recently on the Bill Maher show, and it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very serious man.
Yeah, very articulate.
Yes.
Yeah, what's his first name? I'm not familiar with him at
Stephen.
all, actually.
Stephen.
Stephen Pinker,
Yeah.
Pinker, is that it?
Right.
Okay, yeah. And is he a academic person or what's his?
Yeah, I think you'd call him academic, wouldn't you?
Is he-
Yeah. He teaches at Harvard.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah.
Is it Pinkert with a T at the end?
No.
No.
No, just Pinker. Okay. Stephen Pinker.
Yeah. So he is the one who paints the town pink. He's the
Okay. Rosie.
He's Rosie.
Rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. Nicknamed Rosie.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Stephen Rosie Pinker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pinker, pinkest.
He is an idiot.
So Johnny, you started with some comment that led to that, but George, you're the one that suggested the Dante study.
Yes,
Right.
and I haven't done anything with it other than suggested. So I guess the logical one to figure out how to access it and etc. So I'll do that, and I'll try to do it today, and I'll send an email. If I can't do it today, I'll get it done no later than Monday.
Well, George, that's a Bishop Barron series, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think we could probably all access the different episodes on our own time at our leisure.
Right. It seemed to say that like week 1 was November the 5th accessible. So you can just go to his website and click on something and get it, right? Is that how it works?
I think that's right. Yeah.
But I'll
Or-
make sure.
It could be, I don't know if it's restricted to members of the Institute or not.
I don't know either. But knowing Barron, he'll probably, give people the right to access it for a fee.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what,
Except the
Probably.
code.
Are any of
Yeah.
you members of the Institute, Word on Fire Institute?
I am.
I am,
Okay,
but I never access it. It's funny,
Yeah, it's same here.
same here.
There's plenty
George,
of
I was
stuff.
It's nice to have the potential of being able to access all of that.
yes, one sleeps better if one has that potential.
Paying $12 a month just for the potential to access.
Oh, my.
And I got it on a deal of some sort. George Ferrick, I was going to, when you sent 2 emails in response to your first one, you said, nah,
yeah,
and
I'll
your
pass.
second,
Yeah,
you
I'll
said, well, I'll
pass.
do some of it. I was going to send you after the first email saying, oh, George, you're just saying that because you don't like Bishop Barrett, because he doesn't like atheist chaplains. But you moved too fast for me with the second email.
Yeah. Well, I can just see this medieval trip through purgatory and hell, and it doesn't sound like it's much fun. And it's not something I want to go sloshing through. That was kind of my, so it's not necessarily barren, but
Dante.
yeah.
But you've changed your
it's-
mind, George, or?
Well, I said I would listen to the first one and the last one.
Oh,
The first one is Who is Dante? And the sixth one is Paradiso. So I want to go directly to Paradiso.
now let's keep going. Oh,
Yeah,
I-
skip
Well, we
through
all
the-
do, George.
I know. Well, how many of us in here have already been through Purgatorio and some of
Twice,
hell?
thank you.
In life, you mean?
Yeah, in life, yeah.
Um, I have never read Dante. I've read
Yeah.
maybe the first 5 lines, in the winter of life, I blah, blah, blah. And I've read maybe the last 10 lines. But my attraction to him is basically this. And John, I asked John about this months ago, right? And John has no memory of it. But I remember one day, and Ned remembers this, I think, because we talked about it in first year college. So it would have been, what did Charlie Barr teach us in first year college? I guess it would have been Spanish, right?
Can't hear you.
You're fading out again.
Fuck. What do you mean? Fucking hearing aids. What are you talking about?
You're going up and down and horizontally.
No, that's my tantrum.
Oh, okay.
Is it you can't hear me or you can't understand me?
Now we can
Now
hear
we
you.
are fine.
It was
But you're
hearing.
speaking
It
loudly.
was hearing.
I'll be darned. Well, okay. So I will talk slowly, and hopefully that'll solve it. And if not, you'll start waving at me, and I'll do something.
Yes.
Okay. And Charlie Barr taught us, I think, Spanish something in first year college at Queen of Angels. And I vividly remember one day in his class when he, how Charlie every now and then would go off on those tangents that would just leave us all agape, with our mouths open because they were so creative or weird or profound or
yeah,
all the above.
Yeah.
And he was suddenly he was talking about Dante, and he was talking about the last lines of the poem when Dante has completed his journey, etc. And Charlie said, and so he winds up looking face to face with God, and then he went into Italian.
Sort of. It was a mix of Italian and Spanish, actually.
But the conclusion of the poem about the divine love that moves tutti estrella or something like
Oh,
that.
l'amore
Stella.
che muove la terra e tutti stella, he said.
Yeah, the divine love that God's whatever that just moves every single star. And the way he said it, this happens when you get old, it's emotional ability. What can I say?
It's affection, George. It is full of affection.
It moved you.
But the way he said it was so full of conviction and love of God and appreciation of God that I said, I'm going to read this fucking poem someday. So I never have. And now here's a chance to at least get a nodding acquaintance with it. So that's what attracted me.
Well, good. Well, can I piggyback on that? And while you were talking,
Before you piggyback, Gary Lombardi has just entered the waiting room. So I'm going to admit him.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Nice timing.
While you're doing that, George.
There he is.
Hey,
Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Welcome.
Morning. How are you?
Gary, you're just in time to lead a discussion about Dante.
I mean, what the heck? You're
You sure you want to stay?
So I have to say, God, I missed it. I've not been intellectually stimulated. I watch sports.
Have you been listening, Gary?
I'm a both and guy.
Huh?
You know me. I'm a both and guy.
Yeah, I understand that. But I said the things you guys are talking about, I'm going, what the hell are they talking about?
Well, we've been saying that to one another all morning.
Have you been listening, Gary?
And
George Crook, would you reach out to Gary Lombardi with that recollection from Charlie Barr and see if it resonates with him?
Well,
I'd be delighted to hear.
Maybe he's heard it. Gary, have you been listening at all?
No, I haven't.
No.
By the way, I haven't seen it for years.
Good.
I'm in control. I'm in control of who has access to what. So.
The last time I saw you, we were both sitting in the chancery office. You were a deacon and I was a lowly subdeacon, and I was getting ready to go in to see Benjamin Hawks.
I remember that well, Gary.
And he told me that day that I had no vocation for the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, but would be welcome. I would go anywhere else. They would recommend me to any other diocese in the entire world. So, and you went in and you were assigned to some other parish, I think, at some point.
But he told me that I was completely out of order, that I shall never do anything like that again, and that he was talking about the time that Norm Supanchik asked me to preach at his first mass, and he said, you were emotional, you got people involved with their feelings. I said, no. I said, no, first of all, I begged Norm not to ask me to do that. And he just insisted. So I did. And it was pure Eucharistic, Thomistic theology. That's what that was, all that emotional stuff you're talking about. And don't you talk to me like that. And so I shut up at that point.
Yeah.
And then he told me that I couldn't play my guitar publicly.
Well, that was a good idea.
And then he told me that I couldn't have scripture meetings at other people's homes, that I was a doctor and I should stay in my office and only go to people's homes when
they're dying.
yeah, in
Yeah.
case of death.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you sit in your office and and then he sent me to Father Trower, Bill Trower.
So that was quite a day for both of you.
Yeah.
Gee, were there other people lined up too, or you just,
Who was next?
That's what I remember.
Yeah, there was this line that went around the block.
John, what did George say? John,
What was it?
John?
you wanted George to say something or what? Oh, about,
Well, Gary, could
Hit
you
you up.
email, do you have my email address?
I might, George, Tom sent out all these addresses. I just haven't put them in my contact list yet.
I had just got on this discourse about Charlie Barr and Dante, which it'd be the direction from Tom or somebody was, George, call up Gary Lombardi and explain that, so we don't have to listen to it again, which makes perfect sense.
I would
So-
never say that.
Well, you didn't. You is typical. You did it very elegant. But so what I need to have somehow, Gary, is your telephone.
Crook, your volume is still all messed up.
I think the problem is, George, when you look away, when you look straight forward, your sound comes through clearly, but when you look sideways, then it gets kind of blurry. Yeah, right now you're fine. Yeah.
Okay, this is a
So-
brand new iPad, literally like Tuesday of this week.
Ah,
Now I can hear you better. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, well, that must be the secret.
Yeah.
Good job, Ferrick.
Yeah,
All right.
Let
It
me
comes
get a
from-
pen, and then I'll just ask Gary.
it comes
for-
from being a mediator. You notice micromotor behaviors of people.
Micro motor.
Yeah, like
I
when
don't-
somebody,
I don't even know what that means.
very minute
Little
things
subtle
like
hints.
the eyebrow going up or kicking your foot, a sign of nervousness.
Is
Somebody
that
in the
how?
stomach.
Is that the vehicle for our microaggressions?
Yeah, something like that too. Yeah.
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna get a pen.
We've got a great view of your fan,
Man,
ceiling fan.
Well, you can contemplate that.
So Gary, you have a bunch of books behind you there, and I do too. Are you getting rid of any books, or have you already done that?
I got rid of about 20 boxes of books.
Ah,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and eventually, I mean, I just got to the point. I didn't read them when I was actively.
yeah,
I'm not going to read them now.
yeah,
There were some great things, I was interested in scripture and liturgy and stuff like that, and but I got rid of all my Bernard Herring books on moral theology.
Yeah.
I never read most of those things, so I said I'm just not. I used to get books all the time because they were interesting, and then I never read them, so I finally decided to get rid of them. But those
Yeah.
are the things I have left, and some of them will be. A lot of them are on spirituality, which but I'm really kind of interested now in reading history,
yeah,
historical stuff. I mean, I read, but I'm surprised that in retirement I haven't read as much as I thought I would. I've just got.
Yeah, my wife says to me with great encouragement and whatever, I don't see why you keep buying those books. You're going to die before you have a chance to read them.
Right.
Realism. George.
True.
I get the same thing.
yeah. Just tell her she'll have some stuff to donate to Goodwill.
Oh boy, she'll be happy about that.
The thing to do now is buy them and get them in
Kindle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way you don't take any room, and maybe you read
Yeah.
it, maybe you don't.
Yeah, that's good.
The only thing is, I prefer reading a book than the Kindle
Yeah,
book
me too.
or the
Yeah.
iPad.
Yeah,
But it's really handy when you're traveling somewhere. You can take a whole lot of.
True.
things
I
out.
also like the kind of format that Tom Welbers sent that Peterson Pinker Height connection. I mean, it's what, a 2-hour video that I can take in chunks and go back and forth.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what I was saying when I wrote last night. I think I retired from more than just active industry. You guys are, I said, this group, you have to do homework to be a part of this.
Yeah.
group.
Well, you know, Gary, one of the thoughts behind that is we've been meeting for almost a year now. And I think for all of us, it was kind of an opportunity to sort of get together and just share what's going on and sharing our interests.
Yeah,
And it expanded, the group expanded. One of the people who you may have seen in a past video, but who hasn't been with us for a while is Fred Lawrence.
yeah, no, I know that he's part of it, but
Yeah, who will be coming back after he finishes teaching. And he's what, 80, 81, 82, something like that. And he's still teaching actively at Boston College. And George Ferrick has been, how would I say, a Lonergan enthusiast, a lifelong Lonergan enthusiast. And
right.
so has Fred Lawrence. And I think, George, you helped connect us with Fred.
That's
And
right.
it has been kind of mind challenging for the rest of us
yeah.
to kind of dip our toes, our mental toes back into the waters represented by Bernard Lonergan, whom none of us, with the possible exception of George Ferrick, seem really able to make heads or tails out of.
Well, I
And
think, yeah, I think it, you know, there could be a short version of Lonergan. I think I could send, like George Crook is not here, right? He's gone.
but his ceiling fan
I don't
is.
think,
He's having his tantrum by himself, and then he'll come back.
but, you know, but there's one paper that he wrote that I think all of you could follow and understand and like. It'd be very enlightening, which he wrote. But
Lonergan or Lawrence?
Lonergan,
Okay.
but the book Insight, there are certain chapters, like if you read like 3 segments of it, I think you would get an idea of, you know, the gist of it, because if you had to do it on your own, I think it's practically impossible. Yeah, you do need a teacher, it seems like. And as a matter of fact, Boston College does have a course one could take of videos of a Jesuit who's teaching a course on Lonergan's Insight to first-year students at Boston College.
And it's
But
available on video?
yeah, it is. If you, yeah, I can find a link for you, or you could find it, but
Yeah.
not that, you know, my sense, Gary, is that all of us here are kind of on our path.
Right.
You know, we're kind of on the way. We're kind of, we
Sure.
have our modus vivendi inside of us that has developed over the years, and we can add to it and tweak it. But I think we're not going to go back and rebuild everything. What do you think?
No, we're here now.
Yeah, be here now. That's right.
This far. The heck.
I
Well,
know.
I find a lot of the insights that we've gotten into to be extremely helpful,
Yeah.
in many instances profound, and they do they either I'm going in the same direction. I think you're right, George Ferrick, Ladrón dos. But I
Okay,
do,
Bill.
I think it enhances.
He's curious,
enhances
George.
Our thinking.
Yeah,
and
curious,
even
George.
spirituality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Hey, George, welcome back.
Thank you. Gary, give me a phone number where I can reach you.
707 292 7462.
7462.
Yeah, 707 292 7462.
Okay.
You know, I send out this kind of directory of those of us who are on this Friday conversation. I got Tim Almey's address. I don't think I got George Crook's address, nor do I have George Ferrick's address and phone number. Or if I did get it, I didn't put it down.
I'll email it to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did add it to one of the versions that you had sent out, but perhaps I can send that
Oh,
again.
okay,
Yeah, I'll
no,
send
I
it
did-
to you.
I saw the updated one of.
Yeah.
I still need George Crook. I got George Ferrick, yeah. And I
Okay.
still need Fred Lawrence. I'll send it back. Got Gary Lombardi's total stuff. So, okay. Now we're getting there. We're getting there.
Gary Lombardi, can I throw the baton to you with this attachment? Would you take a minute and reflect on the difference between your diocese and the LA diocese? I've got a hunch that it was a blessing for you to go where you went, but would you give us a little bit of a feedback on that?
Yeah.
1 minute.
Is that throwing a baton, John, or a hand grenade?
Well, it's a baton when we've got the trust around this circle.
Yeah, of
It's a
course.
hand grenade outside, but
Well,
good call, George. Go ahead, Gary.
I would just say that the main difference that I experience. Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
just a little closer, Gary. Yeah,
Yeah, a little more volume,
yeah,
Gary.
good.
I don't know how to increase it.
Oh, that's good.
You're
Yeah.
fine now.
Okay.
At that distance, you're fine.
Yeah, the main difference from the beginning was were two things. One was that obviously Santa Rosa is a very small diocese compared to Los Angeles. That's the largest archdiocese, I think, in the United States, isn't it? Los Angeles, I think it
I
is.
think so, yeah.
And
Well, I
Santa
know
Rosa-
Los Angeles County has 80 cities in it,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
And
yeah.
Santa Rosa is basically a country diocese. I mean,
Yeah.
Santa Rosa has, well, now it's a little bit more populated. Sonoma County, Napa County. We're a tourist area now. I mean, Sonoma County and Napa County, people flock here. But
Yeah, Pliny the Younger attracts a lot of people.
huh?
Pliny the Younger.
Oh yes, that's every what is it? Every fall when they come out with a beer. Is it what it
That's
is?
right, in February. Yeah,
The wine industry and all that shishi stuff that we have now. But in those days, it was just a little podunk place. And also, there's a lot of much more informality. That I recall shortly after I got here, there was a dinner one night with the priests and the bishop, Leo Maher, and it was at a restaurant, and about 30 or 40 guys, and everybody's talking, chit-chatting. The bishop didn't have his collar on, and he had one or two drinks, as I remember. Leo was a bandit. But a guy who was who got ordained just around the same time I did, Larry Carolyn, was a seminarian, and he brought his guitar, Ned, and he started singing. He started singing. He said, "This is something about this is for our bishop," and it was some funny sort of thing. But it was so different, the connection that the bishop had to the priests and the priest had to each other, because in those days they were very social. Maher built big rectories because he wanted the priests to socialize with each other. And then, so that was one of the main, it was just a main, it was in Vatican II had taken root much more quickly in Santa Rosa. And as I told you a couple weeks ago, that my first pastor just in 2 weeks undid, all the training, Ned, the very stuff that that Hawks was telling you about. You know, I told the guys that the first night when I went to Healdsburg with Jack O'Hare, he sat down. We had a couple of drinks, and he said, you know, he says in the seminary, he said, did they tell you not to get too close to people, you know, and just to treat everybody the same and not to have close friendships? And I said, that's what they taught me. And he said, well, that's bullshit. He said, I want you to have a cave. And he began to just, I mean, the way he celebrated liturgy and everything else was just completely contrary to everything that I had seen. So that was, John, that was one of the major differences. I recall Tom Curry, Tom and I were in clergy education together for a number of years. And at the time, Tom said to me, he didn't know he was going to become a bishop himself, but he said, oh, this is the change of bishop. He says, it doesn't make any difference. He says, it won't affect you. I said, maybe not in Los Angeles, but when you're in a small diocese like Santa Rosa, it makes a profound difference, We've experienced that. And with Pat Zeman, for example, and then now we have this guy, Robert Basha, who comes from Lincoln, Nebraska, a very conservative place, and then was
Way to the right, huh?
Oh yeah, our diocese now has, well, we're experiencing the same schism that's in the church today, you know, between the ultra right wing, you know, bishops, and that's our bishop. He's a culture warrior and that kind of stuff. And we got a few parishes, one parish in particular, cathedral, but that's the main difference, John, is a smaller diocese, and you see the effect of it. The bishop, for example, couldn't find a pastor for a little parish out on the Mendocino coast. Still can't, because we just don't have the priests, you know. So anyway, that's enough.
You had from our seminary fellow priests there, Dave Shaw,
Yeah,
Dick Sokol,
yeah, and Joel Zugare came.
Joel Zugare, yeah,
Right. Yeah. Mhm.
all happily relocated, right?
Yes, I think so. Of course. Well, you've been in contact with Dick. I actually have not seen. I don't know when the last time it was that I ever saw Dick Sokol. He had left the priesthood.
Unfortunately, he's slipping big time.
That's what
So initial onset Alzheimer's, but his wife is a wonderful support. So
and Joe passed away, and now, of course, now David has passed away. So
yeah.
And while I was at Nazareth House, we had Bruce Lamb,
oh,
a very, very strange person who,
well,
Apparently.
our diocese is full of them. What do you?
yeah. But I guess he went from your place back into the conventual Franciscans, and so now he's running around in a black habit. But his health is extremely bad. He'll be going to the Lord any day now, I think.
But why don't you get back to Dante? I don't know much about Dante, although I know people who are wild about him. So
Well, you know, while you were talking, I Googled, why should I read Dante? And there's 10 reasons. If Tom wants to share the screen with me again, I can pull it up here.
I think you should be able to share the screen yourself.
10 reasons to read Dante.
okay.
It says, it's a gripping and fascinating journey through the afterlife, unequaled in literature. Anyway, I don't know if I can share the screen here.
You
Let's
should be
see.
able to. Just click share screen.
Okay.
And then you have to click on the particular screen you want to share.
Okay, share the screen and then click on it. Okay. Where is it here? I think this is it. Let's see. Yeah, I don't find it here. Let me see. Huh. Yeah, I'm not finding the screen. Let's see here. Nope.
Just so you know,
Okay.
There it is.
Well,
I have John Chardy's translation of the Divine Comedy.
Well, you're ahead of the rest of us already.
There you are. Well, I have, George, it's just one more unread book on my bookshelf.
Yeah, but you kept it. But you kept it though.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That was just
Hey, is this Dave
solitary.
Lafferty, George?
Let me see where it is. Yeah, now I can't even get to it. Let me check it out. It's does it say 10 reasons?
Yeah, let me
Okay,
share
yeah.
my
Oh,
let me
yeah,
share
you
my
can-
screen.
Yeah, you can share it.
Okay.
Is that it, George?
Good share, yes.
Yeah, that's it. Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead and read it.
Oh, go ahead and read it.
Well, you can all
Ferrick, go.
gripping, a fascinating journey through the afterlife, unequaled in literature. Well, so it's an imaginary tale.
Monsters, adventure, politics, sex, love, relationships, good and evil. The story has it all.
Right. It can be enjoyed and appreciated on many levels. It's a work that can't be read just once. It covers a whole range of emotions: frustration, confusion, terror, rage, compassion, love. And that's just in the first book. It's an education in theology, philosophy, and history. The inhabitants of hell remind us of our neighbors. Remind us of some people we know. Souls don't always end up where you think. Popes in hell, killers in heaven. It's all about redemption and mercy. Everyone loves a story about a journey, and it has a happy ending. It says, after a rough start, Dante ends up in heaven. This is ultimately a story of hope. So,
And of course, the illustration to that is the circle of lust.
Maybe that's the end of the journey. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's why. Yeah, I'm just going to log on to the last one, Gary, session 6, when they get to Paradiso.
yeah, there you go. A priest friend of mine, Jim Fredericks, is a theologian. He lives in Sonoma. We get together very often. Absolutely. And he taught at Loyola University there in Marymount for a long time, and loves Dante and taught Dante. And Dante for him is everything. So just so you know.
Yeah.
Now there's a brand new translation of the Divine Comedy that is done very specifically in prose rather than poetry.
Mm.
And I've tried a number of the poetic translations, and they're awfully difficult to plow through. And from what I've read, Dante's Italian poetry is almost impossible to adequately translate into English simply because of the nature of the two languages. You can do a lot more rhyming and rhythm in Italian than you can in English. So I'll send a link to that translation. You can get, in fact, you can get it on Kindle for about $4.
Oh, good.
Got my attention.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Anyway, this starts next week, doesn't it, George?
I don't even know.
It's
All I
November.
did was send the email I sent you guys, and then
I think
So
it's November the 5th. Well, that's we could even watch it together.
It's a Friday, right?
that'd
Yeah,
be
we
fun.
could. Yeah, I don't know how long it is, if it's a half an hour presentation, or
What is that you're talking about?
I don't know how long the Bishop Barron's presentation will be.
Oh, on what? On Dante?
Dante,
Oh, is that what you were talking about? I saw
Yeah.
some of your, I missed some of your conversations, so I was kind of like lost in the fog there. So.
yeah, George could send you the link if you're interested, and it tells you It tells you the schedule of the 6 sessions. It's all in 6 sessions.
Oh, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. That would be
And the
good.
first one is Who is Dante?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still reading this biography of Francis of Assisi. Gary, my dad died on the feast of Francis of Assisi, so, and it really struck me because my dad was a very simple, et cetera, guy. So every 5 years or so, I make it a point to read a book about Francis of Assisi, whom I'm never sure if I like or not, the guy. He strikes me as a very willful, rich kid, and who preserved that personality all of his life somewhat. But nevertheless, he's the saint that he is. But I am just in this current book, which is supposed to be the latest and the most scholarliest by a French guy. I'm just amazed at the wars over who was Francis of Assisi in the church. And some of it overlaps with Dante, is same time period roughly, and all that. As the Pope wanted to claim Francis as a son of the church who would bolster the church up, and kind of, we were headed towards the Reformation. So Innocent III and his successor, Honorius, really wanted to make Francis and the Franciscans creatures of the papacy. And yet Francis he just wasn't going to buy that. And in some of his testaments, he said things like, I don't care who says to the contrary, no matter how high their position is, you're not going to own anything, God damn it. That's our charism, We're going to be truly poor. And, and that's who we're going to be. And the wars over the stigmata. What was the stigmata of Francis? And, and St. Clair. I mean, St. Clair just defied popes. And all it was a fascinating period, sort of Italy north of Rome, and that's where Dante was. If you go to the church of Santa Croce, is it, in Florence? They've got all these luminaries buried there. I think Dante among them. And yet he was exiled from Florence, all of his life, because he gambled wrong on this faction versus that faction. But it's fascinating church, because who's there? Michelangelo.
Who's there? I know that.
Machiavelli, all at the same place. So I don't know. I mean, I just figured Bishop Barron will probably do this in 6 1-hour sessions, or maybe 2-hour sessions. And then finally, I'll be able to decide if I'm really interested in Dante, whom I've always thought I should be interested in, right? Like we all think we should. But he wrote in rhymes, and, poetry is hard to read, and it was Italian and all that. So that's the whole reason for this. Plus, I like Bishop Barron.
By the way, Dante is buried in Ravenna.
I'm wrong then.
There's a memorial to Dante at Santa Croce in Florence, but his sarcophagus there is empty. And I visited Ravenna back in 2009, and I did visit the tomb of Dante. So I can send a picture or two of it.
Yeah, I have a friend, an attorney, who went to Italy on his first trip to Europe, and is intending to see Italy and then knock the rest of it off, trip by trip. And he's been back to Italy 11 times.
Yeah.
Oh my.
It just can't break away, from the Renaissance.
Once you go to Italy, you want to go back. At least that's my.
Yeah.
That's
Remember, Gary?
Yes,
first trip.
yeah. Well, I took a sabbatical in 2002 for 5 months. And for the first 2.5 months, I was in the at the North American College, George, where
Uh-huh.
you had gone.
Yes, yeah,
And for it's called ICTE, the Institute for Continuing Theological Education.
Mhm.
And I was there for 2.5 months. And then I spent 2.5 months. I had a priest friend from Lake Charles, Louisiana, Harry Gregg, and he and I rented then we had an apartment in the town of Viareggio, which is where my family is from.
ah,
My
wow,
family has a cabana there on the ocean, and we were 2 blocks from the ocean. So I lived in Italy for really 5 months, 2.5 months in Rome, 2.5 months in Viareggio. And since then I've gone back almost every year.
wow, yeah,
In fact, 2 years, it was funny you mentioned Dante. 2 years later, a cousin of ours, I mean, these are all cousins, second, third cousins. They had a reunion of the Bonacelli. My grandmother's last name was Bonacelli, Bonocelli. And they had a reunion of the Bonocelli from around the world in Viareggio and Camaiore. And at the last night, they had a big dinner at a big restaurant that owned by one of our relatives in Viareggio. And the MC started, he was doing all this in Italian, and we'll all start talking. He starts reciting Dante, and all of my cousins at this table, they kind of raised their eyes in desperation, but they all recited the same thing. They all knew it all by heart, where they were going like, oh God, here we go again.
Here we go.
Dante. They were all raised on Dante.
Well, that says something about him, to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
well, well, seriously, if the first episode is made accessible on the 5th and it's accessible to us, would you want to view it together if it's possible, if it's a half an hour,
Either that or
Yeah, I'm game.
and then discuss it?
Well, you know what I could do, since I'm the one who's hosting these meetings, Zoom wise anyway,
Yeah,
I think it might be easiest for me to basically play that
Right.
on a shared screen.
right, yeah, exactly.
And I think they're about half-hour
Well,
lessons.
that'd be good if they were a half hour. That'd be good.
So you want me to look into that and see if I can do it, and if halfway through we all, well, let me put it this way. The first sign, y'all keep your microphones on while we're doing this. And the first sign of anybody snoring,
Take care of that.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
But I would be interested in that. I didn't realize what you were, because I saw some of your comments, as I'd missed a number of your conversations, but that would be interesting. I would be interested in that. Might be a good way to get back into the intellectual life a little bit, So.
Well, let's check it
yeah,
out.
let's
Sure.
check it out. Okay,
Yeah.
so next week I'll look into that and email you my progress report.
okay.
And
That
how
sounds good.
soon will Tim Almy be back with us, Tom?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how long he's going to be consorting with the turtles. See,
Well,
Send him a little alert on this. I think he will not want to get blindsided about these plans.
yeah, well, he has full access to our conversations anyway,
Yeah.
as you know, so, but yeah, he'll be included in whatever I send out, and you all can encourage him to and see what happens. Or if he's watching this, he can,
well, but the turtles are turtles, man.
they are.
Well, that reminds me of, last Sunday about, what did you do or what's going on in your life? I did watch the Ram Dass. Gary, do you remember that book, Be Here Now by Ram Dass?
I know the name, yeah.
Yeah, back in 1971 it came out, so it was the 50th anniversary. And there's a Ram Dass Foundation, to continue his videos and his teachings, etc. So one of the episodes is Ram Dass swimming with a turtle in Maui.
Oh,
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have-
that's
I
part of a
have-
little
yeah.
episode there. Yeah,
I have snorkeled in Hawaii where we saw, you see turtles.
yeah.
George, we should tell Tim to go to the Galapagos Islands. That's where the that's where the big ones are.
Yeah.
In off of Ecuador, the Galapagos.
Actually, I'm making a big deal out of it. He just said that where he's going on one of the barrier islands,
Yeah.
is where the sea turtles come to spawn, but they're not there now.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I think he's there more for the beach life.
Yeah.
And that-
Gary, I was intrigued, and I realize we're getting near the end of our time, but I was utterly intrigued by, I guess it was your comments about how your bishop never once went to see Dave Shaw.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I can't believe that. I mean, was that just he's an absent-minded intellectual and it didn't occur to him, or was that vindictive, or
Basically, he's a person who cannot relate to people.
but a
Oh, well.
dying priest and you're the bishop?
Yeah, right. That's correct.
That's
And a
not a
full
hard
diocese.
one.
And George, it's to my knowledge that he never went. But I talked to my friend Dan Welton, who was the vicar general and a good friend of David's also. And Dan said he never. And David, I think David even commented one time that the bishop hadn't come to see him, but David was happy that he didn't. So I don't know.
Well, there is
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
There
They
is
just
that.
had-
Yep.
our bishop is a I don't know how to characterize him. He'd be like Raymond Burke. That's probably why we have him in Santa Rosa.
And why you have the Napa Institute up there. too.
exactly. I mean, it's all, but the problem is, it's strange, really. He came from Lincoln, Nebraska, which had at the time the bishop there was getting Fabian Bruskowitz. It was during the era of the Second Vatican Council, and Bruskowitz was well known for being anti-Vatican II. He didn't want any of or the post, whatever his era was, but he was anti-Vatican II guy. However, he was a very pastoral bishop. He would have clergy gatherings on a regular basis and was very social with them and knew all the priests. And now Vasha came from him as the guy in Tucson, Arizona, a guy named Olmsted. I think he's.
I know all about Olmsted.
And there's another guy, another bishop from Lincoln, but they're all three. They're like peas in a pod. They're very conservative. They're very pro Latin mass. They want their back to all that kind of stuff. But Vasha's problem is that he personally does not relate well to people, and he doesn't even come to the priest retreats, and he can be a bully for people. He treated me fine, because actually I was older than he was, and he was just waiting for people like me to retire. Any Vatican II priest, he just was gonna. Early on in he came here. There was a program that he had started. A guy named Leonardo Di Philippis, who did impersonation, who did a program on like St. John Vianney. It was a one-act kind of thing, and it was held in our church. And when we were getting ready for it, some of the people from the Napa Institute placed Tom, a couple of guys in Napa who were heads of Ignatius Press. Tom, do you know that Ignatius
Mhm.
Press?
Yes, yeah.
Well, they came over for this production, and my associate, Sean Rogers, heard them talking to the bishop. What are you going to do about all these Vatican II, all these liberal priests in our diocese? And Vasha said, "Oh, that's easy. I'll just wait them out." And that's what's happening. We're all,
Mhm.
but it's not so much that, it's just that he himself does not relate well to people. So that's that. But it is unconscionable, George, that he did not go see David.
I think it is.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah, unconscionable is a good word. And Gary, next time we get together, I really want to ask you about the relationships between these two factions of the Vatican II priests and these weirdos, these young guys that are, and my brother-in-law was the Bishop of San Bernardino, just recently retired.
Jerry Barnes?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he would say, I asked him about that, and he said, I'll ordain a very right-wing guy, no problem, if he's a good priest, if he loves the people and is devoted. I don't care if he wants to, if he's pining to say mass ad orientem. He's not going to, as long as I'm the ordinary. But nevertheless, it's just, I don't want to fight with these guys. I want to be a symbol of unity in the diocese. And he was, now retired. But I just, maybe Santa Rosa is a good laboratory to talk about, because I just don't understand it. I just don't understand guys like, your former boss, Vasa, wrote a letter recently endorsing Cordileone's moronic letter.
Yes, they're all a piece of the pod.
Yeah, I thought he did a better job with it than Cordileone did, frankly, but sounded more literate and
But he's very articulate in a lot of ways. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and thoughtful.
Very clear on what he thinks, and he can express it well. Yeah.
But oh my God, the rest of us have beaten this horse to death, but if these bishops write a letter, a statement on the Eucharist in such a way to imply that pro-choice or only tepidly pro-life Catholics should not go to communion, it's going to be a disaster for the American church. And they're going to do it.
Have you seen the news this morning about the Pope and Biden? And Biden afterwards said that the Pope told him to keep going to communion.
Yeah.
No.
And immediately, Raymond Arroyo, the EWTN guy, accused the Pope of violating canon law and being a heretic and so on and so forth. And that just amazing.
Well, the America Magazine had an article. Why aren't these bishops defending the Pope against EWTN?
Yeah.
And why aren't they? And I'm on the RCIA team here, and the lead presenter of late keeps talking about stuff she's seen on EWTN and I'm going to bring this up. No, don't talk about EWTN. They're a bunch of seditious pricks. I won't phrase it quite that way, given its a church context. But I mean, all of us. I really admired John Paul II. I really did. I thought he was a great man. I thought he was, Herbert told me he thought he was the greatest pope in the last 1,000 years, and Herbert didn't even like it, because Herbert was this Jesuit intellectual that had a professor that had advised John Paul, and he said, he had no capacity to dialogue with, kick things around, well, maybe this, maybe that. No, not John Paul. And Herbert, as an academic, was just appalled by that. And but I didn't like his appointments. I didn't like his statements about women priests. I didn't like his statements about birth control. And I kept my mouth shut because he was the Pope, and Benedict similarly. Well, and we all did. We all did. The liberals in the American church didn't buy some TV network and started attacking these guys.
That's
Well,
exactly right.
Yeah, how dare these people do this? How dare they?
That's exactly right.
As
They never
somebody
put up
should
with the
be,
shit Francis had to put up with.
yeah, as somebody should be calling them out. And when Francis calls them out, he's not very good at it. He's not articulate in an American way. You know, oh, this is the devil's work to attack me. Well, you know, you don't say that. I think he's like defenseless almost.
Mhm.
He doesn't pay attention to it, George.
Huh?
He doesn't really. Did you read? There's a book called The Wounded Shepherd by a man named Austin Ivory.
Yeah.
I know who he is, but I haven't read it.
It's a well-written book on Francis, and he welcomes all this stuff. To be honest with you, I mean, it's a way. He was trained in. I guess Juan Perón had two lifetimes, and his first one, it was kind of a method. It was kind of a method of dialogue. But anyway, but I totally agree with you.
Before
Well-
before we conclude, I need to take
But
this.
Tom, let me just say one other thing. But Gary, I'm assuming you've, you were in a diocese that's small, where everybody knew one another,
Yeah.
where geography would militate against only seeing members of your own clique. You'd have to interface with,
Yeah.
the young priest with the Vatican II priests and vice versa. And I'd just like to know how that went. Were there polite
I'm
conversations?
gonna have to go.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
see you,
just-
George.
I'll see you next week. Okay.
And George,
Bye,
before you
Gary.
go, can
Hi,
I just
George.
ask George,
Yes.
very quick question? You go to St. Albans and you know Richard Cushman?
Yes, I was gonna mention him. Yeah, he was good friends with Dave.
Richard's a good friend of mine.
Is he?
And
He's a wonderful guy.
yeah, he is. Well, we could talk more about him another time.
Okay, yeah,
He
right.
continued wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Tom,
Well, I just have a quick interjection here, because you may remember last week I mentioned that I was having lunch with Cardinal Mahoney on Monday. And it was about 10 retired priests. We've had larger gatherings, but every year or so he's invited, the retired priests to have lunch with him in a restaurant.
Gotcha. Are you
And
going?
for the
Okay.
very first time, by George, for the very first
Okay.
time ever,
I have a few more minutes, so.
I have heard Roger Mahoney get passionately negative about what's happening in the archdiocese.
oh,
Oh,
And the concern was seminary is producing large percentage of priests who are, he didn't hesitate using the word narcissistic, who have nothing on their agenda except to promote their own view, ultra-conservative,
Yeah.
traditionalist, reactionary view of the church, and to come in and try to change parishes. And there was, he quoted one young priest coming in out of the seminary, lamenting to his pastor. No, the pastor got word of it. He was lamenting to some of his lay followers that he really disagreed with this 4-year term for newly ordained priests as associates, because he says it'll take me at least 5 or 6 years to change the parish.
Oh,
arrogant
geez.
son of a bitch.
Yeah. And he.
I'm sorry.
Mahoney was complaining that all of the replacement posts in the archdiocese, and especially in the seminary, seem to be filled with Opus Dei people. And
Well, that's
Yeah.
your bishop. Gomez is from Opus Dei, isn't he?
yeah, he is.
mhm.
Yeah,
Nice man.
he seemed to be, very nice and very
I
low
agree.
key as far as the traditional view of Opus Dei is concerned. But bit by bit, he seems to be changing things very much in accord with the traditionalist Opus Dei mindset.
And Francis is very clear, this dude ain't gonna be no cardinal, you know?
That's right. Not in his lifetime, but Gomez is a lot younger than Francis, unfortunately.
Well, but he's not gonna be voting in the next conclave, which is perhaps important.
True.
Well, not after talking to Joe Biden.
Yeah. It'll be interesting what the US bishops do.
Yeah.
I have a suspicion that the primary author of that document is going to be Barron,
Oh, really?
which,
Aha.
On the Eucharist?
yeah, because he's the one bishop who has written extensively about it. My difficulty with Barron's theology is that he concentrates almost exclusively on transubstantiation and real presence, and apologetically defending real transubstantiation rather than trying to unfold the richness of the relationships among the members of the body of Christ that is embodied in the Eucharist.
Send him a
Welbers-
message, Tom.
Welbers-
That's a good one.
Welbers, you wouldn't dare say that if Nat Chavira were here.
I probably
Where
would.
is he?
Who knows? I don't know.
He just faded away.
That's
Well, his
right.
chair is there.
Okay, well, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to our next
All
visit.
right.
Anyway,
Gary,
good to
it's
see
a
you.
pleasure to see you. Thanks
Shall
for
we,
joining
Gary?
us.
Yeah.
Shall we call it a
Okay.
day? I'll say goodbye and I'll end the,
Well,
or does
Yeah,
anybody want to continue talking?
Well, I'll just say, Gary,
God
ignore
bless.
the first 60 minutes of the recording unless you want to know all about the IHMs.
I'd like to read that. I mean,
Okay, well, good. Well, listen to it. Yeah,
Then,
it's
we
a
live that. We
It's
live
yes,
that.
yeah,
Yes,
it's a
we did.
thoroughly detailed account. Yeah,
And,
You
and McIntyre destroyed them.
he did. He did.
No one should have that kind of power. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad I can join in on the conversation. This is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
oh,
All
Yeah,
right.
Gary, if nothing
Good.
else, we have fun in our ignorant way.
Well, I-
I'm gonna call you right away, Gary, so that I'll,
Here.
we'll
God
have a
bless.
conversation.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're off.
thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye. Bye, Ned.